The night of May 14, 2008, began like many others for 19-year-old Brandon Swanson. A Minnesota college student, he was on his way home after a late-night gathering. But what started as a routine drive would soon devolve into a harrowing ordeal, culminating in a phone call that would haunt his parents forever. For 47 minutes, Brandon spoke to his father, navigating a dark, unfamiliar landscape, until a sudden, blood-curdling exclamation of "oh shit" pierced the night. Then, nothing but silence. The line went dead, and Brandon was never heard from again. Brandon Swanson was a student at Minnesota West Community and Technical College, living a typical young adult life. On that fateful night, he had attended an end-of-semester party. As the hours grew late, he decided to drive home, a journey that should have been straightforward. However, somewhere near the small town of Lind, Minnesota, his plans were catastrophically altered. His car veered off the road, an incident that would set in motion the events leading to his inexplicable disappearance. Stranded in the darkness, Brandon's first instinct was to call for help. He reached out to his parents, telling them he had been in a car accident and needed them to pick him up. His father, Brandon Swanson, immediately set out to find him. Brandon believed he was near Lind, close to a specific landmark he recognized. This detail, however, would prove to be tragically inaccurate, adding layers of confusion and desperation to an already dire situation as Brian drove to the location Brandon described. What followed was an agonizing 47-minute phone call between Brandon and his father. As Brian drove, Brandon walked through the dense, dark landscape, trying to describe his surroundings. He spoke of fields, ditches, and the sound of water, perhaps a river or creek. The terrain was challenging, and the visibility was minimal. His father tried to guide him, shouting Brandon's name, flashing his headlights, hoping to catch a glimpse or hear a reply, but the vastness of the rural night swallowed their efforts. Despite Brandon's conviction that he was near Lind, it was later discovered he was miles away, in a completely different county. His perception of his location was tragically mistaken, likely due to disorientation from the accident and the darkness. This critical misunderstanding meant that Brian was searching in the wrong area, while Brandon continued to wander further into an unknown and treacherous environment. The communication continued, a lifeline stretched thin across a landscape shrouded in mystery, each minute adding to the tension. The call dragged on, with Brandon growing increasingly frustrated but still determined to find his way. He was trying to navigate through dense brush, possibly along a riverbank. Then, without warning, the conversation took a terrifying turn. His father heard Brandon exclaim, distinctly, "oh shit." The sound was sudden, sharp, and filled with an undeniable sense of alarm. Immediately after, the line went silent. The connection was lost, severing the last known link to Brandon Swanson and plunging his family into an unimaginable nightmare. In the immediate aftermath, a massive search effort was launched. Law enforcement, volunteers, and Brandon's parents scoured the vast rural landscape, focusing on the area around the Yellow Medicine River, where cell tower pings had indicated Brandon might be. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, but despite extensive searches using K9 units, ATVs, and even aerial surveys, no trace of Brandon or his belongings was ever found. It was as if he had simply vanished into thin air, leaving behind no clues. 15 years have passed since that terrifying night. The case of Brandon Swanson remains one of Minnesota's most perplexing cold cases. The lack of any physical evidence, the complete disappearance of a 19-year-old in seemingly plain sight, continues to defy explanation. Was it an accident, a fall into the river, an encounter with a person or animal, or something more sinister? No explanation has ever been found for what happened in those final seconds after Brandon's desperate cry, leaving a void of uncertainty.